Man, we have all been waiting for this movie for over 2 years when we first got that trailer in 2018. And it looked bad then, and it did not improve since now. And you know what? Let me just mention this right off the bat first, okay? I could have sworn in that first trailer there was like like an old lady transforming into like a younger, more beautiful woman. And I don't think that was in this movie at all. And that was like the main selling point of the VFX of that trailer. What happened to that? What happened to this movie? This movie was atrocious. So welcome back, guys, to another review on a brand new 2020 Disney movie released on Disney Plus. And this movie was just not good at all. And I'm going to do a little rant in this review. And quite frankly, I'm going to just go for spoilers because there are some things in this movie that were so bad that it had me dying laughing. So this is going to be kind of if you've seen Chris Stuckman's videos, it's going to kind of be a hilariosity video because there are some wild things in this movie. So let's just get off right off the bat the positives of this movie. And I think first and foremost, I think there are two sort of action-y scenes that really do kind of work. There's one scene with a troll, the second fight with the troll, not the first one where they're in like a party zone. I have problems with that scene, but there's a later fight in the troll in their main mansion house that was actually kind of fun and entertaining in some ways. The characters were completely bland and you didn't care about any of them when they got hurt or when they were in danger, but still for the most part it was a fun enough action sequence. And they had this cool idea where they have these like time freezing bubbles that in concept is really cool. I can see how this is based on a book and there's some concepts that are pretty cool, but the fact that this little zone bubble thing was like collapsing in on itself and people were getting sucked through time, that was kind of cool. And what I just explained right there was a lot cooler than what the movie actually portrayed. I think in execution it kind of failed, but that's all the positives I have for this movie. You know what? And I guess the performances, especially from the main fairy girl, was not terrible. I think they were all serviceable enough, and I don't really want to knock down their performances whatsoever, except for when it comes to Josh Gad and Judi Dench, which I think I want to talk about that first. They have some weird-ass voices in this movie that I just don't understand. And Josh Gad makes a joke that they had some sort of throat infection because like even they knew that their voices were ridiculous. And Judi Dench especially was extremely just... What is she doing? First Cats and now this. Like, this Dame Judi Dench. Like, come on. She's such a great actress. But she's in this Artemis Fowl movie for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And then there's Josh Gad, which, first off, his narration at the beginning of the movie makes absolutely no sense by the end of it. And you find out the reason why he's narrating over the movie. Really dumb. All right, I'll get into that later on in a bit. But his character in general was odd, right? He's a giant dwarf, and there's a scene in this movie. I'm going to show you guys a clip of this scene in this movie that is real. It is a scene in a movie that just came out on Disney Plus in the year of 2020, and it's a real scene, and it's based on a book, and I swear if this is actually part of the book, I would just die.
Everybody, stand back. It's feeding time.
I paused the movie after that point. Like, there are several points in this film where I just straight up paused it. 20 minutes into the movie, I knew that this was going to be nothing but exposition. I took notes during this movie, and I started writing down all the modes of exposition that they use within the first 25 to 40 minutes of this movie. I think the first half of this film is almost completely, entirely, exclusively exposition. So you had, of course, the narration that played out throughout the entire movie. You had the butler character, who's his name is Butler, but he's not a butler, or he is a butler, but he doesn't like being called Butler. That's a whole thing. He had a lot of exposition. There was TV exposition. There was Judi Dench spouting out some exposition with her throaty, weird, gravelly voice. Then you had the horse guy giving exposition. Then you had the dad's journal, which had exposition in it. Then you had flashbacks with the dad as he's reading the journal. And then you had the kids' expositions when he's reading the book of the dad's journal. And then, of course, you have the main fairy character. And then by the end of the movie, you have the dad himself, for once, giving the exposition himself. That is just a lot of exposition. And, you know, exposition is needed in movies, especially for a film and a world as vast as this one. You know, you have this entire underworld fairy, like, civilization with trolls and with goblins, or not goblins, but with centaurs and a bunch of different weird creatures, and this entire fairy civilization with all these different mechanical and technological advancements and all these things that are just not a part of our real world. And for a film like that, you do need exposition. I'm not saying that you don't need exposition at all. I think this movie really did need some exposition. But there's a difference between how it is used in this film and how it's used in, like, say, A New Hope, a Star Wars. Like, the original Star Wars movie, when they go and they first go into the town in Tatooine, and they walk through and you hear, oh, this town is filled with nothing but scum and villainy. And you have Ben Kenobi and then Luke Skywalker and then R2-D2 and C-3PO go into that bar, and you see all these wild creatures. And that's all you need to know about this place. All you need to know is that one line that's filled with scum and villainy. I mean, it's a bar where Obi-Wan literally cuts a guy's arm off and kills him. And you have Han shoot first and kill Greedo. And they just continue on playing their music like nothing happened. Like, that's the town you're going into. That's all the exposition you could possibly ever need to set up that area of this world, of this planet in Tatooine, in a galaxy far, far away. That's all you needed. In this movie, you have every second of the film for the first 24 to 45 minutes. From that range is almost exclusively exposition. And it is painful to get through. I was struggling getting through the first half of this movie. And of course, when we get into the plot of this movie, they're all kind of after this thing called the Aculos. Like, it's this weird technological thing that can do some magical abilities, and you don't really, I mean, they say the word Aculos like 30,000 times in this movie, and that's not an exaggeration. It's insane. They say, and every time they say the name Aculos, they say, oh, we need to find the Aculos, the most powerful technological thing in the world, or the most magical thing that can do this. Or every time they say the word Aculos, they have to have some sort of explanation of what it is. And that's after like the 15th time that they say the word, they're still explaining it, which that drove me nuts. There's that troll scene that I mentioned earlier in the video. The first one with this giant troll creature. You have this party going on, and the troll gets out and starts attacking this party or this wedding, and then our main fairy girl goes and saves the day, and then a bunch of other fairies show up, and they kind of neuralize the entire town, so they forget everything that happened, like in Men in Black. But the difference is, in Men in Black, they just leave all these people with this wedding destroyed with no explanation of what happened to their wedding. And somebody just says, oh, this is a weird wedding. And that's it. Like, they didn't even give any effort in either explaining why this situation is a mess, or maybe cleaning up a little bit, or just doing anything instead of just leaving these characters in a destroyed wedding and they just wake up and move on with their lives and somebody falls off like a thing. It makes absolutely no sense. And another thing, the entire premise of this movie is all these fairies going against Artemis Fowl, and the fact that he kidnapped one of the fairies, kind of kidnaps one of the fairies, and he just, like, I guess he's a hyper criminal villain, with his dad also being a hyper criminal thief. And it's just like, sure, but they send an army, I mean an army of fairies against this one kid and his butler, who up until this point just learned about this fairy world, and somehow they know how to use all these weapons and all this technology when they had no idea the previous day that any of this ever existed, besides, you know, thinking that it's some fairy tale stories that his dad used to tell him when he tucked him into bed. And that's all the stories that he knew, and all of a sudden he can use all these weapons, and he's taking out fairies left, right, front, and center, and just kicking ass like crazy, this 12-year-old kid or whatever his age is. There's a main villain who hides in a hood, and this character shows up maybe 2 or 3 times in the movie, and this film sets itself up for a sequel, and you never see who this hooded figure is. You see them maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the entire film, and this character never does anything besides kidnap the dad, and then the dad just kind of teleports back home. They don't even go to get him. He just teleports home and nothing happens. And when it comes to all the characters and this friendship that's being formed between Artemis and then that fairy girl and then the butler and then the butler's niece for whatever reason, and then you have Josh Gad's weird mole character who's eating through the ground and farting out the dirt. It's like, and this friendship and this team that forms by the maybe an hour and 20 minutes into the film, it's so unearned. You know nothing about these characters. And the fact that the butler's niece is there makes absolutely no sense. She doesn't do anything. She maybe has 1 or 2 lines in the entire film. Then their entire purpose in this movie there is none. There really is none. And the butler character even dies at one point. And I thought, okay, the movie had the balls to kill a character, and I guess the characters were sad. I wasn't sad because I did not know anything about this butler character. But then 2 seconds later, they bring him back. He was dead for less time than Chewie was dead in The Rise of Skywalker. And that was like maybe 2 minutes. So, I mean, what in the world? And the fact that this film sets itself up for a sequel, and the fact that we're never going to get this because Disney just dumped it onto their streaming service, and it's not going to make any money. They had no faith in this movie. I had no faith in it going in, which I guess is not really fair for the film. But, I mean, the trailers didn't look good. Half the trailer, actually all of the trailer wasn't even in this film. It's just like, this movie failed on almost every single aspect. It had maybe one fun action sequence, and it was kind of entertaining during that one scene where the bubble time thing was popping, and it was absorbing up characters and they're being like erased in time. I don't know. That's one thing they didn't explain, but it was kind of cool. But that was about it. I wish this world had more depth to it. Like, they had exposition of what this world was, but that's all. It's all base level stuff. They didn't care about this world. They didn't care about the characters. And the director, Kenneth Branagh, who directed Thor and Murder on the Orient Express, which I did not like, but Thor with all the Dutch angles. There's a hilarious Dutch angle in this movie. But what is he doing directing this thing? It just failed on all levels. This movie was, I can't really say disappointing because I wasn't expecting much, but it was much, much worse than I thought it was going to be. This is easily the worst movie I've seen by far this year, even though we haven't gotten many movies. It's one of the worst movies that I've seen in a long time. This movie was atrocious. If I were to put a number to it, I'd probably give it maybe a 2 out of 10. It's that bad, guys. Do not watch Artemis Fowl, even though it's on Disney+. It's a train wreck from start to finish. So I know this is a bit of a longer video. I had fun just tearing this movie apart. And when it comes to films like these, I kind of feel bad, but at the same time, I mean, it's my channel. I can talk about this film how I want. So that is my review on Artemis Fowl. If you guys saw the movie, comment below what you thought. Did you hate it as much as I did? Thanks, guys, for watching. Subscribe to my channel to see more of the 30-day film challenge I'm doing right now. I just uploaded my video on the Cornetto trilogy, and then I'm going to upload a video on Super 8, which is one of my favorite films of all time. So I'm doing that again. Thanks, guys, for watching this. I will also have a review up for Da 5 Bloods on Netflix, which I'm about halfway through it, and it is great so far. I love Spike Lee. I'm excited to finish this movie. So thanks, guys, for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one.